Okay, let's go ahead and get started. As you guys saw in the chat, if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on sports recruits, how-tos, and the recruiting process, I definitely recommend checking out our YouTube channel and giving it a subscribe as well. What we'll talk about today is breaking down events and figuring out how to spend your time and money wisely during this busy event season. I'm Zach Craig. I'm a senior customer success specialist here at Sports Recruits. I'm also a graduate from Oklahoma State University, where I played football there. On tonight's agenda, we'll talk about 5 topics, different types of events, personal invite versus non-personal invite, determining if the event is worth it, making the event worth it, making the most out of your trip. And any questions you guys have, we'll answer those at the end of the webinar, but you can add them in the Q&A section. They are private, so you can just add your question and no one will see like who it's coming from. Then I'll answer as many questions at the end of the webinar as I can get to. But starting off with the different types of events. So here you'll see the 4 biggest or most common events: prospect days, clinics, showcases, and tournaments. For prospect days, they're normally one day between $100 to $200. These are usually one school attending, and it's 75% evaluation and 25% education. So that means it depends on what school it is. If it's a heavy, like Ivy League, they might talk a little bit more about the education side, and then also a little bit about their university. But you're also going to get a lot of good evaluation at that prospect day. Camps and clinics, those are usually one day or a weekend, anywhere from $200 to $800, and it can be anywhere from 1 to a dozen teams. This is a lot of education. Also, you're still going to get some evaluation. This is really a way to learn more about the university, learn more about the programs, and then get to know those college coaches as well. Showcases are usually one-day events, anywhere from around $200 to $500. The great thing about this is there's always either a medium or a large amount of schools attending. So that means you're going to get a lot of evaluation at these events, and you're also most likely going to get that event film, and you can then turn to highlight reels and post on your profile. Tournaments, similar to showcases, they're just longer, and you're going there with your club and playing as a team. So it's normally, not always, but it's usually built in with the club dues. But same process as far as a lot of schools attending. You're going to get a lot of evaluation, and you're going to get a lot of footage that you guys can use for your recruiting process. So those are the 4 types. Again, if you have any questions, want me to go more in depth on those, add that in the Q&A, and I'm happy to answer that at the end of the webinar. Number 2 is the second topic is personal invite versus non-personal invite. So here we'll talk about different kind of email invites you'll get from college coaches and programs, and making sure to understand what type of email that is and the best way to respond to those emails. So the first is the good ones. They're both good, but the better ones, in my opinion, which is the personal email invite. You can see that example on the right. It's informal text. It's short and sweet. They mention you by name, and then it's unique to you. So there's something that relates to you that makes it personal, making you know that it is a real message. What does that mean? This means you're on that coach's and that program's list of a smaller list of recruits. So they might have a full database of athletes, but they also have their short list of top tier recruits that they're really interested in and really want to learn more about. And that's when they're going to send out these personal emails to get you on campus, to see you in person and get to know you as a student and an athlete. Then you also tell the college coach to send it directly. You see their name right there. They're even adding their phone number for you to have for future reference. Responding to these personal emails. Even if you're interested, that's great. Even if you're not interested, always reply back to these, because it's you got to play the whole recruiting process, and it's always good to be polite, be respectful. And also, if you're not interested at that moment when you first receive that, you might be interested later down in your recruiting process. So it's really important to be respectful. They're taking the time to email you. You guys can take the time to respond back to them and show them that respect, because at the end of the day, you never know what might happen in the recruiting process and what school you end up playing for. Mass email invites. On the right, you'll see that example. They almost always look in some shape, form, or fashion of this. They'll have probably a big school logo, they'll have some kind of fancy background. But what you'll notice that initially sticks out is, instead of saying like, "Hi, Chris," like the other one, this one says, "Dear Christopher." So they're not even calling you by the name that you prefer, the name that you probably have on your Sports Cruise profile. So that'd probably be a easy, flag to find. And there's also nothing uniquely in this email besides saying, "Hey, you want to come to our camp? These are the dates. Hope you can go." So what does this mean? This means that you are on their coach's list, but you're most likely just in their database that I previously talked about, where they're just trying to, they have a full list of athletes for Pacific grad years, and they're just trying to send out and get to learn more about athletes, and also try to get these athletes to come to their camp to get evaluation, but also end of the day, college coaches, try to earn money for their programs as well. So that's another way they can spin that a little bit sometimes. But this doesn't mean they're not interested in you. They just may not have known about you yet. So it's still, it's still a good thing when you get these mass emails. Obviously, personal are a little more better and genuine, but mass email still means that you're on their radar in some shape. But it does mean, the last one right here on number 2, that this most likely did not come from an actual college coach, because they're sending these to hundreds of athletes. The college coach is not going to take all that time to do that. Most likely this was sent by an assistant coach that's in charge of recruiting, or their recruiting coordinator, maybe a graduate assistant, and they're putting the stamp of the head coach on this mass email. Responding to these, if you're interested in that school, I recommend checking the email of that mass email. Most of the time it's from like recruiting at the school.edu, or baseball recruiting at .edu school. But if you are interested, I would go to that school. I would find who that head coach is that it said it was from, and then respond to them directly and say, "Hey, I got your email about the upcoming camp or showcase. Would love to attend." And then give me your information to start that conversation. On the flip side right here, if you're not interested, no need to respond, because again, it's just most likely a generic email. It's going to a generic inbox, and it most likely won't get a response. So if you're not interested and you're getting a bunch of mail from college coaches and programs, and you don't want to respond to this mass email, that's totally fine. But remember, for the genuine personal emails, definitely always respond yes or no if you're interested. Step 3, or number 3 on the list, determining if it is worth it to attend those events. So right here, if the event is one school attending only, so a few bullets right here. Is this school on your favorites list? So do you have general interest for this school? Is this a good fit for you academically, culturally? Does it have the major that you're thinking about maybe wanting to earn a degree in? And then is this program a program you can play at? So if this is from like a top 10, top 5 school in the country for your sport, if you're good enough, that's great. But if you're not, you got to be realistic and say, "Hey, it may not be the best, way to spend our money this summer or our time, if I don't know if I can get recruited by that school regardless." Next, do you want to learn more about that school and coaching style? So if you do have interest about that school and you like the way that coach, coaches their athletes, they're a player's coach, or they're, very disciplined and focused, if that interests you, then that's a good way to say, "Okay, maybe we should go to this one school camp." And then have you introduced yourself to that coach yet? So depending on how you answer those questions, I would definitely write these down. We'll have a recording of this webinar that we'll put on our YouTube page. So you can definitely screenshot this or write this down. And as you're going through these schools this summer, you can write, a Y for yes, an N for no. That can really help you figure out, is that school worth going? Same thing for events with several schools, like we talked about the showcases and the tournaments. Is there at least one school near the top of my favorites list? Have I been in contact with at least a handful of the coaches that are attending? Does the school match my level of play? Same thing. Am I good enough, in my opinion, and by my coach's opinion, to be able to play at that school at the next level? And what is the reputation of that camp and showcase? So all of these are really important, as you guys probably know, and your coaches know. There's some camps and showcases that are better than others. So it's just really good to go through this checklist for one school events and several school events and figure out, is it worth for you to attend that event. Because it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. So you want to make sure you're getting the best exposure in that short amount of time during the summer events. Number 4 is making it worth attending that event. So what does that mean? So before the event, before you go to the event, before you guys drive down there, or maybe on the way traveling down there, message the coaches in attendance. It's really important to do that because you want college coaches to know that you're going, so they can already be on, you can already be on their radar, and they can start looking for you on the field. What to include in those messages: your most up-to-date film you have, your grades, so like an academic transcript, and then your event schedule for that event. It's really important to get, they have all that information, so they can start putting that in their database, and then they can start adding to that as they evaluate you over the coming months and coming years. During the event, it's really, obviously, you want to perform. Don't over stress about it or overthink it. You guys know how to play in your sport and how to perform, but go out there, kill it, perform well, give it your best. But then also make sure during that event, that weekend or that day, explore the campus. It's really important to get a good feel of that campus if you have general interest in that campus and in that program, because you'll get a lot of knowledge, information by just walking around the campus, going into buildings, seeing what the student body is like, the kind of the culture of it. You might think a program is the best program for you, and then you go and visit the campus and you're like, I didn't like any of that, and that's totally fine. But you're not going to know that until you go there physically and experience that culture of that campus and see if you like it or you don't like it. So make sure to definitely do that as well during the event. After the event, it's really important to follow up with those coaches and reassess your position with that school. So depending on what happened at the event, how well you performed, you had 4 goals, remind them of that. If you were able to speak with any of the coaches, in those follow-up messages, say, hey, it was so great getting to talk to you, getting to speak with you. Follow up on what you guys were talking about. Hey, remember I let you know about my upcoming schedule, and you said you may attend a couple of games this year. Whatever kind of conversations you had, continue that conversation after the event via email. But even if you were unable to meet some of those coaches, still follow up to those coaches and say, hey, sorry I wasn't able to connect or wasn't able to find you at the event. Would still love to talk and connect. And again, use that as a way to start these conversations with those college coaches. And right here in bold, you'll see right here, no player should show up to an event completely unknown to a college coach. So if you're going to an event and saying, hey, I'm not gonna reach out or do anything, I'm just gonna go perform, that's great. But if there's so many kids at events, and even if you play the best you've ever played, if a college coach didn't know you were playing on field 4 and they were on field 2, they're not going to see that performance. So it's really important to reach out to these college coaches, get on their radar, let them know, again, what fields you are, and we'll talk more about this in the following slide, but just getting that information to those college coaches so they're aware that you're going and attending those events. So right here, what to say to those college coaches. So again, right here, we're starting pre-event messages about 10 to 12 days. So anywhere from, a week to 2 weeks before that event, that's when you should start sending these messages. So college coaches have time to build out their schedules to be able to maybe go to that event instead of a different event. You've got to give them enough time to build out their own schedule. You don't want to tell them the day before and they're saying, hey, I wish I would have known about this earlier, but I already promised another event that I would go there and attend that one. So give them enough time to make that decision if they can make it or not. And then right here, as I was kind of mentioning in the previous slide, things to include. So the dates and times of when you're playing, who you're playing, what field you're playing on at the event. There's some fields that have 20 fields or more. So you need to let that coach know, hey, I'm on field 5, 6, and 7 at this time playing this opponent. This is my jersey number and we're in blue. So they have all that information so they can be on there. They have their list of information. They can go find you and easily see who you are, where you're at on the field, so they can start evaluating you. So it's really important that they have that information and it's correct information. So that just leads to better chances of them hopefully evaluating you during that event. And then post-event, thank the coach, ask for feedback, reinstate your sincere interest. So even if you were not able to talk to that coach or meet with that coach at the event, let them know, hey, I still have a lot of interest in this in your program, but if your university would love to learn more about it or connect in the future. Thank the coach for attending the event, and then ask for feedback. So if you know that they watched you play, ask for feedback. Hey, is there any pointers you have? How I played, anything I can work on. Coaches love that feedback because that means they know that you're trying to get better and you have passion in what you do. Those are really good things to add in your post-event message. But again, always thank the coach for attending, because just like you're taking time out of your busy schedule to go to the event, so are they. Okay, so we talked about all these messages before and after. The best way to do it, obviously, is through your sports recruits messaging system, which is located under the message tab. So if you guys haven't used this before, I highly recommend you guys use this moving forward. Very easy, as you can see in the to section, you type in the school, a drop down of all the coaches for that program for your specific sport will drop down, and you click the coaches you want to send a message to at that school. You add your subject line just like you would a normal email. You add the body of the message just like you normally would in a regular email. But the really cool thing here is that blue URL link on the bottom. That is a URL link that goes directly to your student athlete profile, and also logs college coaches into their accounts, so that we at Sports Recruits can track their engagement, and you guys get notified of what they're viewing on your profile. So that leads to the next slide right here, tracking your activity. So again, if you guys use the messaging system and you guys add video and add athletic information, academic information to your Sports Recruits profile, that's going to lead to the better chances of college coaches viewing your profile and engaging with your profile. So if they do that, you'll get notified every time they view any video, academic, athletic information. You guys get notified just right here via text and email what school it was, what do they view in your profile, and a timestamp of when that took place. The best way to filter that is once this gift starts over, you'll see the filters on the top of the screen. And again, it's under the activity tab, the first tab on your account. You'll see, so you can search by colleges, and then you can go by views. And then that will give you all the views that you have on your profile, or you can do by colleges and messages and see all the messages that you've received from college coaches. So it's a really easy way for you guys to stay up to date on all the engagement that you're having on your profile. Okay, so moving on to the last one, which is making the most out of your trip. So it's really important, in my opinion, to get the best bang for your buck and be as efficient as you can during the recruiting process. There's only so much time in the summer, and only so many events that you can attend in a short amount of time. So you want to get the most out of your travel expenses and out of your time. So for these two examples, you'll see they all kind of follow a path or a certain highway or a road or a region. In our opinion, in my opinion as well, it's really important to try to go as many as you can in a certain region as possible, because again, that's just going to lead to more exposure, and it's going to take less time and less money. Again, if you have a lot of interest in getting interest from a lot of schools, a lot of states around the country, that's totally fine. If you want to fly from New York to California because you want to go to a big showcase right there, that's totally fine. Everyone has a different budget. Everyone has a different plan, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with any plan you guys want to do. This is just a good example of finding a bunch of schools on the same path. And then as you're going on a week trip, or sometimes people go on 2-week trips, and you're just going and hitting all those schools, hitting those events. So you're getting a ton of exposure. You're learning a lot about the campuses. You're going to meet college coaches, and you're getting a lot of event film at those events as well. It's just a really great way to, again, be efficient, be smart with your budget and with your time, but also get a ton of exposure with college coaches. And again, get a lot of footage as well that you can then make highlight reels, put it on your profile. So for any college coaches that were unable to attend, they can then view it on your profile because you have that film and that footage. Okay, So that wraps up our webinar, but we still have all the Q&A. So I see a good amount in here right now. I will give you guys a minute to add some more questions. And then again, no one can see them. They're all anonymous. So if you have any questions about the recruiting process, about the platform, about, more questions about the events, want me to go over, a topic I already went over in the slide because you missed it, I'm fine to do that. You guys let me know how I can answer these questions. And then I will wrap up this webinar. But give you guys a second, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I'll start answering some questions. And then again, keep adding them. I probably won't be able to get to all of them because there's a ton of questions. But if you want to add one, add it, because I'm just kind of clicking through randomly. I'm going to answer as many as I can. Okay, so the first one. That's a good question. The athlete just finished their freshman year. Is it too early to start visiting colleges and going to campus? My opinion is no. I think once you're in high school, that's really when the recruiting process really starts. Obviously, in most sports, you really can't have a lot of communication until that junior year. But with you being on campus, you can still start building out your list of schools and starting to figure out, what's a good fit for you as an athlete, as a family, as a student. So I think it's really important to still go on those visits, start learning about these schools, because at the end of the day, you're either going to figure out, okay, I really love this school and like the program, or the school just wasn't the best fit for me. Even though I love the program, I think I'd play well there. I wouldn't be happy there as a person or as a student. So the more you start learning about that, the less time you'll waste on schools that weren't a good fit, and you can start shifting your focus to schools that will be a good fit. Someone asked for the YouTube link. So the best thing to do, let me just go to the very first slide real quick. You guys can see my screen. So if you just go to YouTube and type in right there, sports_recruits, that will take you to our YouTube page. You can see all the past webinars that we've hosted, and then short videos about recruiting. And we're always adding more content to that weekly. And you can also subscribe so you get notified when we post that new information. Okay, some really good questions here. I have a ton, so I'm trying to get to as many as I can. Bear with me. This is a good question. So how do you find out the reputation of a camp or event? Obviously, no event's going to say they're like not the best or not that good. So I would always go off of word of mouth. So that could be from, coaches, college coaches, from your club coach, high school coach, and then, families and athletes that have maybe gone to that event in the past or know people that have. So it's really important to talk to a lot of people, especially your coaches and your friends and teammates and advocates, because they're going to know, hey, I went to that in the past, or I know someone that went to that, or my older brother or sister went, and they'll let you know, hey, it was good, it was bad, or it was worth the money, or a ton of coaches go, or not that many coaches go. You'll get enough information you need to know, hey, should I go to this event? That was a great question. Okay. Okay, there's another good one. Is it better to attend a 1 or 2 day event, camper showcase, or a specific college versus a general location? Well, there's kind of two ways to answer this. If you're trying to get a lot of exposure, I think in my opinion, it's good to go to those big showcases and events, because you're gonna get your chances just increase instead of going to a one school event or like a 10 school event. If you're going to a 30, 40, 50 school event, your chances of getting exposure during that event is only going to increase because of the amount of coaches that are attending. But if you're getting a lot of those personal emails from college coaches saying, hey, I'm going to go to this smaller event, or hey, please come to the camp that we're hosting on campus, you should go to those if you have that same interest for that school and that program. So it really depends on where you're at in your recruiting process. If you're just getting started and you haven't had that much conversation, it's probably better to go to those bigger events. But if you're having more conversation with specific programs and coaches, it might be better to go to those ones. So it just really depends on your current situation. Okay. I've seen a couple about, hey, I'm an underclassman, or hey, I'm not a junior, so I can't really have, full conversations because of NCAA recruiting rules. Should I still reach out to these college coaches, or should I still go to their camps? My question, my response is, if you still have a lot of interest in those schools and you think you're good enough to play at that school, I would still go, because even if they can't talk to you, they can still learn about you. They're still going to be able to see that live evaluation. They're still going to get the list of athletes that went to that event. So if you know that your ability and your grades are good enough to play at that school and you want to potentially play at that school, I would still look into reach out to those college coaches, obviously, and then going to that event. That's a really good question. Okay, have time for a few more, guys, and then we'll have to wrap up the webinar. A lot of good questions. I really appreciate you guys bringing in here. I think it's good for everyone to kind of get a different view and get some answers to, very common questions. Sorry, guys, going through a bunch. There's a lot. It's a good question. So is education considered training in the sport, or education about the various schools at that camp? So it's very broad as far as the education. It could be, again, the college coach is talking about their program, talking about their school. It could be talking about, fundamentals for, that sport, certain positions. So college coaches kind of going through like, hey, this is how we train our athletes for, certain drills and whatnot. And then also, hey, this is our academic background. This is our, everything about the campus, the town, all that stuff. So it's very broad umbrella, but it's a way for those college coaches to just speak on their program's behalf and also their school and the city or town that they live in. Really, really good question right here. Can I get access to the recording after the webinar? Yes. If you registered for this webinar, you will get a recording via email. And again, all these webinars will be on our webinar landing page, where you can find under the More tab, and you'll see where it says webinar, and it'll take you right to our webinar page. And then also, again, they'll be on our Sports Recruits YouTube channel, which is at sports_recruits. So that'll be posted before 5 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. But that's where all of our content will be, and that's where all of our past webinars will be, and future ones after they've been recorded. I have time for one more question, so let me find it here for you guys really quick, and then we'll wrap up this webinar. Okay, one more minute. Okay, this is a good one. Last question right here, guys. What should we be looking for in a personal invite via email for college recruiting camps and what follow-up would be appropriate afterwards. So we talked about this a little bit, but maybe they missed a slide. That's totally fine. So I'll say it again. We can go to that slide really quick, actually. Let me go find it for you. Here we go. So personal email, again, you can see it's short and sweet. It mentions you by the athlete by name. It's uniquely written for you. You can tell the college coach, it's not like the next one where it's not just like, copy and paste. They're adding their name, looks like a real email, and they even put their phone number. They don't always put their phone number, but that's another way to tell if it's genuine. And again, the appropriate follow-up would, if you're interested, let them know you're interested in that program, in that camp. It's a great way to start that conversation. And even if you're not interested, still take the time to follow up and let that coach know, because they're still reaching out to you. It's the right, respectful thing to do. And then also, you might be interested in that school later on in your recruiting process. That was a great question. That's all the time we had. It's 7:30 on the dot. I hope you guys learned a lot. Again, you guys will get a recording if you registered tomorrow via email. And then also you can see all these recordings on our webinar page and then also on our Sports Recruits channel. Hope you guys learned a lot. I enjoyed it. Have a good one. Good night.